Scotty.
Johnny, good to see you, buddy.
Good to see you too, man.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah, you got a beautiful house here.
Thank you.
Admiring that before we did this fake hello for the camera. Yeah, just appreciate you having us over.
Well, thanks for making the time. I know in real estate, it's crazy busy at times. So if we can do more of this stuff, I think it's nothing but good.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that agents helping agents, competitive agents helping agents is something we haven't seen a lot of. So I guess kudos to you for doing this. I know you've done this with some other agents, so I think it's really cool.
Yeah, and like I said, a lot of these guys are top performing agents, and the minute you ask them a question, you'd think that there's that competitive spirit where they're just, your competition, I won't share, but they were all willing to open up and talk about real significant issues and what they've done to kind of get to where they are. So it's actually really awesome to see.
Yeah, I bet. I think that honest conversations, you see the insecurities, you see the truth, and yeah, we're all regular folk just trying to,
make our
earn
way,
some money and support our families. So yeah, it's good to do this.
100%. So part of what I wanted to do, obviously, we see your signs, we see a lot of the stuff you've done. There's a story there, and I think people can learn from that and be inspired by it. And I think if you get to know, and if most of you will know Scott, but those who know him on a personal level will see that there's a bigger picture there that I think is also cool to highlight. So I kind of want to go through that and get a sense.
Sure.
So maybe start a little bit with your story.
Yeah, wow. I think that there's a real estate story. There's always a personal story as well. The real estate story for me started when I was delivering newspapers. I was an adult newspaper carrier for the Toronto Star, Globe and Mail. Not that there's anything wrong with that profession, but I think that I had a skill set that probably wasn't being used to its full potential.
Of course.
And I got a call from a recruiter, random call saying, how would you like to sell the phone book for the Yellow Pages? And I was like, wow, that sounds like a great opportunity. So I took that job, and I remember it was, I think, $25,000 a year plus commissions. And the product was the phone book, and this was only 15 years ago. So it wasn't the easiest product to sell. People were using it for booster seats for their kids to sit at the dinner table. But what it did give me was a really good foundation around sales training, good coaching. There was proper org charts at the company. It's a big corporation. It's a huge sales force, 1,200 people. And I actually sold some advertising to a realtor, and he was 25 years old out of Toronto. At that time, we had partnered with Google, thankfully. So we had now two product offerings. One was Google, one was the Yellow Pages offering. And he just started buying up a ton of Google. And I remember he was spending $2,000 a month. And in the second month, he came back to me and he said, let's double the spend. And I was like, 25 years old, $4,000 a month on advertising. Wow. I think I'm going to look into real estate.
Yeah.
And that's actually how I got into it.
Right on. You just saw the potential.
I saw the potential, and I also understood the digital space that I was selling.
Right.
And I knew the product that we launched for him, and I thought, well, he was just taking my advice on what to do. Why don't I just design something for myself and do it? And so it was a big lead gen site that I started with, and then there was a few other microsites that I sort of started out with. And I'll tell you, the first time I remember the phone ringing, I remember picking it up and being like, hello? Yes, hi, we saw you online. We're thinking of selling our home. It was like, whoa, this works. This actually works.
Right.
And like I say, that was, so I started with that company 15 years ago. Then I finally got into real estate 11 years ago. But 11 years ago, if you were doing like microsites and Google AdWords and pay-per-click, SEO, you were seeing huge reward. And now it's very competitive and the margins are slim. But back then it was a lot of low-hanging fruit.
Right. So maybe from a technical perspective, everybody spends money on SEO, but not everybody gets the same results. Tell us what was part of that secret strategy that allowed you to sort of get market share super fast.
I would say that I didn't focus on SEO. I focused more on pay-per-click. And if you think of the two products, just for layman's terms for the audience, if you're not well-versed in digital marketing, the goal is to try and get to the top of the website, the top of Google, the top of Yahoo, wherever you're trying to get to the top of. Google has a product for that. It's called pay-per-click.
Yeah.
You pay them, they put you at the top of their website. SEO is an organic way of trying to get your way to the top, and Google is trying to de-incentivize you to getting there because they don't want you to try and get to the website, the top of their website, without paying them.
That's right, yeah.
So you can spend a lot of money in the back end, and all of a sudden Google will unleash, I think it was the Panda launch was when I was starting out, and it basically had all these websites that were link building and content building using meta tag keywords and trying to get to the top of Google. Google would unleash this attack against SEO campaign or SEO campaigns, and you would just be devalued down to like page 6. So for me, I just played the way they wanted me to play and built a really good CTR click-through rate with a lot of great keywords in real estate. And we had just some amazing returns from digital campaigns.
Yeah, and obviously the experience you got from your other position. The funny thing about real estate is often we get in, there's not any real training. So if you've had the luxury of being in a sales company that's large enough to have divisions, to have the accountability, have all those scripting sessions, that probably helped you tremendously.
It was, we were fortunate. Like at that time, the digital space was so new. We had, I remember Orange Soda was like the leader in SEO.
Yeah.
And, Yellow Pages had a big meeting with like the CEO of Orange Soda, and they were training specialists at Yellow Pages. And I just happened to become what they would call a digital ninja in the sales force. And so I was getting all this top level training on what was working, what wasn't working, how to set up ad groups. For those of you that don't understand Google advertising, this is going to sound like a different language, but for those of you that do, ad groups are a simple thing. You set up 3 ad groups amongst real estate. One might be, luxury homes. Another ad group might be duplexes. Another ad group might be, French-speaking realtor. And underneath those ad groups are all these different keywords. And some will work really well and some won't work. And when you know how to like move budget around to what's working and what isn't, it's a massive advantage because you're coming in with knowledge that, the general public doesn't have. So
Right. So highly analytical, holding those results accountable. And if they're not working, you just move it around.
Best part about digital advertising is it's very measurable. So as you know, we've tried many different advertisings like yourself. A lot of it's creative, so a lot of it's billboards, outdoor spend, buses. How do you track, what the return is? How many calls did you get? Were those calls qualified? It's difficult.
Totally.
With digital, it's like, here's the amount of time they spent on your website. Here's where they went on your website. Here's the link they clicked. Here's the keyword they searched before they went to your website. They actually did submit a contact us form.
Yeah.
Like very, very trackable. So it's, from that standpoint, it's a major advantage.
So tell me, when you're looking at that information, what do you do with it? Is that like a triggers a call? I'm sure you've got like a list of things to do based on a certain interaction. Yeah,
so I would say when I started out, I was very, very focused on the analytics, and like I really drilled in. And what happens is you become busy. If the phone rings, now you don't just have a job of looking after your Google campaign.
Right.
Now you got to go sell real estate.
Yep.
And so we started selling a lot of real estate, and it took me away from actually looking at the analytics. The Google product specifically has kind of a set it and forget it style.
Right.
Once you have, I don't even know if this is still relevant, but back in the day it would be like a 3% click-through rate or higher. That was a really, really good campaign. So once we had achieved those 3% click-through rates, meaning 3% of the search is going to your website.
Right.
So we would actually just kind of leave it, and we would leave it on autopilot, and then we would just focus on selling real estate.
Right.
And I haven't gone back in to really focus on the analytics in a while, but I'll tell you that our returns have been sliding, and perhaps that's a reason.
Yeah. Okay, so obviously that was the first step. You've got some interesting thoughts and ideas on, obviously it's not just one thing, right? Like we briefly touched on bus signs, but there is something to say about the whole process in general. It's kind of the more eyes that you have on you, the more interactions, the easier conversion might be because they feel like they know you. Maybe briefly talk about this. I know you've talked about the bus ad approach and versus going with one versus, mass production.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that.
So I think that the consumer is driving our marketplace. So, back in the day, and it's probably even before you and I got into the business, but there probably was a style where, it's one realtor, you hammer in your own sign, you're printing off your, brochure on your computer, maybe you're door knocking the neighborhood, letting people know about your open houses. And there was a season for that. But I believe that in today's day and age, it's so competitive. Prices of homes have gone up. Our paychecks as a result have gone up. There's a constant pressure on commissions, so I'm not going to avoid that. But I would say that the consumer is demanding 360-degree solution to exposure on their home. So they want flyers. They want, here we are today, we're making content.
Yep.
They want content. So they want Instagram, TikTok, YouTube presence. Not that they personally want it, but they want their home to have it.
Right.
Their home needs to have it. And so, we look at that, and then we look at collaboration between big brands. So you have a big brand. Why are we even collaborating? Well, because it's a win for our consumer. Our consumer wants the Van Geest group and the Scott Benson team to have a great rapport. They want us to be showing each other's properties. If you called me up and said like, hey, I've got a new listing, would you mind coming by? I would happily do it,
100%.
and vice versa. And so this is where I think the shift happened, was like, for the consumer standpoint, they just wanted full exposure in every direction. And so we're supporting that desire, and I think that it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but then also with regards to you going back to like the online presence that you had, you started to see results with there. There's two components there. You needed to start growing a team, and you also started adding additional components to that process. I think you used the what was it, the plant story, the plant about. We already talked about it. We can cut that out, right? Sorry.
Oh yeah, we can cut anything you want.
Cool.
And you know what? Even I love nut cutting. Like even this stuff that's just to show that we're real, just like everybody else out there. Like we're gonna have stops in our conversation. Like we can leave it in, we can cut it out. But what plant story? You're not talking about growing marijuana, are you? We weren't supposed to talk about that on this call. No, I'm just kidding.
So there's been numerous times in my career where I've reached out to you and be like, okay, Scott, obviously you've got some of these things figured out. I'm thinking about going this avenue, which was bus signs and all that stuff.
Yes.
And you kind of said, don't waste your money unless you're prepared to do this.
Yes.
And I think when you told me the amount that you spent, I was like, oh, like that's massive.
Yes.
First, it takes a certain kind of person to be able to, and I was just learning this. Like when you think about every ad dollar you spend as investing in yourself, and you know you're going to convert, it's kind of like you're betting on yourself, and you've always done that. But when I asked you about going this method, here's what I'm thinking: like, don't waste your money unless you're prepared to do this.
Yes.
You got to be everywhere.
Yes.
So, are you comfortable sharing what some of your bus ad spends are?
Yeah, I
Everybody's
think so.
asking.
Yeah, I think so. I think that just so you know, the type of person that you're talking about, that's a lunatic. So you have to be almost like a lunatic to be able to do this.
100%.
Or like a complete egomaniac. Hopefully I'm neither of the two, and humble enough to joke about that.
Of course.
But I think that actually for me, what I was in that conversation, and I remember it well, what I was trying to say is unless you are going to dominate the market with an ad spend, then like one or two bus shelters or one or two buses is probably not going to give you an impact that you are desiring. And so for us, I mean, in the height of our spend, we will do, and you guys can do the math after the call, but we'll do 56 buses, we'll do
56.
Yeah, like in the height of our spend, we'll have 56 active buses between, Halton and the kind of the peripheral. We'll be doing, and this ebbs and flows, but like I would say, spring markets, we tend to ramp up. It wouldn't be unusual for us to have 206, 207 bus shelters at one time. In a year, I think that we do, don't quote me on this, but I want to say something like 120 billboard spots. So a billboard spot being, I think they're 4-week spots. So anyways, when you look at that, a bus for us is, I think, annually $56,000 a year.
Wow.
You have to wrap it.
Yep.
Or maybe it's 52,000, but you have to wrap that bus. I think the wrap is 10,000. But the thing is for us, it meant market exposure for our team, for our brand, and for our clients. And so we saw it as a win all the way around. But I would say that it's also, getting more competitive. So we've seen more brands come in with big spends.
Totally.
When I first started doing it, I remember being pretty much, maybe not the only one in our marketplace.
I was just about to say that. You were one of the ones who started that trend. And once everybody saw that you were everywhere and that the business was coming, people jumped into billboard space.
Yeah, and so now it's become more of a race to the bottom, I think. Like we're all trying to spend each other out. I think that there's a healthy shift going on right now, which is more of like a collaborative
content creation.
Yeah, let's get together and let's still drive mass exposure for our clients and their listings, but let's work together and maybe create partnerships, competitive partnerships. I think that's a healthy shift.
Yep.
And there's probably a lot of people in their marketplace saying like, okay, we see your brand, now we want to see like the heart, or we want to see who you are. And I think that we're able to share that more on conversations like this as opposed to a
100%.
bus stop or whatever. So, yeah.
Okay, so tell me about your team. How large is your team right now?
Yeah, so it always hovers around, I think we're around 35 agents. And why I say that is naturally you have newer agents coming in that we're training up. Some of those agents work out, some of those agents don't.
Yep.
You also have agents that, are in the afternoon of their careers and they retire. And then agents are transient. I think it was a big Remax broker said, in our business, our assets have 2 feet. So at the end of the day, agents can walk and go wherever they want, and so we see it ebbing and flowing. But there's a good nucleus to our team. I would say over the last 10 years, we've kept the core,
Yep.
and we have an amazing culture. I'm so thankful for that. In my opinion, culture comes from the people. So we have just amazing people, very talented realtors, and I think that that's a good number. But and I don't know where you're going with this next question, but for me, this future of like the mega team model becoming even bigger is a fascinating industry trend. So like you see and I'm sure we can mention brands that are healthy brands that are growing large, large headcount.
Yeah.
Like you look at a Golfy or you look up north at a Mark Ferris or a Peggy Hill or whoever they are,
100%.
you start to see these 65, 70 person teams, and all of us go, is there a healthier margin? Is that the right balance between spend and return? So I haven't been there yet, so I don't know the answer, but it's fascinating to me.
Yeah, because it's still relatively new. Like you guys are kind of leading the way on that. Everybody that you mentioned is kind of pushing through with this new, almost not going back to the way it was.
Yes.
I think the other day you even said, like, I think real estate's changing so much so it's either going to be a big team or I think relationships will still work. They won't necessarily do as much business. But that in itself is enough for someone who is a relationship-based business to try to figure out how to compete with those larger brands.
Yep.
So for you, obviously running a team. So what I've discovered about a lot of agents is they're naturally good in sales. They naturally are hard workers, and they naturally will just do what it takes to figure stuff out. And it's not until you look in the mirror when you've hired people that you recognize you got to change the way you operate, the way you act. And a lot of people don't put effort on culture. Culture is massive when it comes to retention. And then hearing some of these brands go through 8 to 10 people per month, it's like, wow, like obviously we're going to have turnover in this business, but what are some of the things besides culture? What did you learn about leadership that helped you retain people? Ultimately, there's the value proposition that you're given and providing opportunity, but there's more to it. It's not always about money.
Yeah, no, and I think that we're all in business to make money, so that's a fair point. But I would say that if it was just about making money, then we probably wouldn't have any substantial ongoing consistency with our team. And we have had amazing consistency, especially with our core. And I think the core to any team is usually kind of that, 10 to 15 person group. I would say that for us, I can't think of, in our core group of anyone that we have kind of lost or had to let go of. So I'm thankful for that.
Yep.
I think one of the reasons is that we have leads. So meaning there's opportunity.
Of course.
So like that's always a healthy way to grow. I think I heard a pastor one time say that, healthy things grow and growing things change. And so we expect that as we grow, things will shift. But if things are healthy, then we should continue to grow. And you look at the plants and the trees and you know that that's, a God-given truth.
Yeah.
So I would say that for us, we try to have a healthy environment, meaning like we treat people well. We try to help out. If we make a mistake or we're offside, we apologize. I think that those is like standard things that even look at home. You have a great marriage with amazing kids. You look at your home, you look at the culture in your home. It's not perfect, it's stressful.
Of course, yeah.
There's all kinds of things going on, but if you're willing to humbly acknowledge an error or, come in humility to apologize, like these are really healthy, simple things. But you'd be surprised in our industry,
Of course, ego.
how many times those things don't kick in. So I hope that that's the reason we've kept
Right on.
a good group. Yeah.
So tell me about the makeup of your team. And it'll lead to sort of like where's the industry going, how you're adapting. Obviously, we're talking a lot about content creation. I think our industry is changing to the place where COVID had an impact and people are online. They're looking for someone to be a guide to sort of someone that not only that is a professional in that industry, but someone that they can relate to.
Yeah, and I think that it's been fascinating over the last 2 years. So for us, I would even say we're late to the game in content creation.
Yeah.
So in the last 3 months, we've really heavily, and the other guy on the other side of this camera's name is Prince. A big shout out to Prince. We love you so much. You're doing an amazing job for our team and for our clients. We're so thankful for you. But this is, I think, it's probably the COVID kind of era, if you will, sort of forced us into this.
Yeah.
So like people weren't actually getting out of the house. We weren't going out to workplaces as often. We weren't using our brokerage space like we used to. How do we communicate? How do we get the word out about listings? Well, naturally, social media is a great way to do that. Yeah, so I think that the makeup of our team is fairly traditional in nature, and I think if you look at most teams outside of real estate as well, most companies, we have a core group of mentors, and I work on the business side of things more than the frontline selling.
And you're not selling anymore.
I wouldn't say I'm not selling anymore, but I would say that I am focusing more of my attention on marketing efforts, culture efforts, coaching and training. So more of a mentor role. But I would say that we have a core group of agents that are kind of frontline, top producers. And I think that if they were in a different era, 70s, 80s, 90s, early 2000s, they would be the agents that, are kind of that one-man band that are really just killing it in the marketplace. But I think on our team, we've realized that if we can pool our efforts together and have a brand that backs us, then the putting us together is greater than the sum of our individual efforts.
Right.
And so that is where the industry is going, in my opinion. I could be wrong on this, but I think that if big brands don't realize, which you have realized and I have realized, that if we don't get together and somehow collaborate or share economies of scale or support one another, you've got a higher cost of doing business. So like, let's face it, 10 years ago, the cost of being a realtor was far less than it is now.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Right? Like we've gone into like having a full-time content creator, a graphic designer, administrators, deal.
How many? I think people want to know like the makeup, because there's a scale there, right? When you start adding a certain amount of people, you probably have a formula like, okay, when this person reaches this production or this amount of agents, I need to have support for that, because without it, we'll fall.
Yeah, I think that, so for us, I mean, we probably have trying to think of the ratio that we have. I don't know what that noise is in the background, but it's, anyways.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's all good. You hearing it on your audio? Yeah, okay, no big deal.
Block it out.
We can block it out, or we can leave it in. I don't really care. I think like the rawness of a video is so cool, right?
I plan to leave the airplane sound.
Yeah.
Because it is a home setting. It's not
Of course.
Yeah, exactly.
I think people want to see that, right?
For sure. So so the makeup for us is probably a 1 to 6 ratio on staff to agent count.
Okay.
Right now we are, I don't know if we're heavy, but the market has softened, as you know. So like we're filming this in the fall of 2022. So the market has softened. So for us, we've got a general manager, we've got an full-time, an administrator is really not giving her credit for what she does. It's like an operations director.
Of course.
Full-time content creator. We've got a graphic designer. Then we've got a bookkeeper. We've got contract style, accountants. I think we all as realtors use contract style installation companies. Where else is our overhead going? Yeah, it would take me a while to like think about all the spend and where it goes, but that's the basic makeup. And for us, like in order to sort of sustain that, like we've got to be doing 400 units a year plus. And I would say that the average sale price has got to stay around 900 to $1 million in terms of like our production average sales price. Right. The margins are fairly thin. So like, I think that, for anybody thinking about that big team, big brand, just know that we are in a very competitive space. Everyone has a constant pressure on commissions. So, and I expect it. I mean, we expect to have these conversations when we meet with a client. I think commission is a healthy thing to talk about. But when there is a constant pressure on commissions and the cost of doing business is greater, it just shrinks the margins.
Of course, yeah.
And so this, I have found this space to be, I think, the most difficult space to sort of work out healthy margins.
Right.
And but we'll forge forward, and
of course,
that's just what we do.
So you mentioned coaching and training. Everybody has a different approach to getting and providing that value to the agents and also helping them be well scripted. I'd imagine with you, like naturally, you probably were just able to answer those questions and bring people to why your commission is where it is. When it comes to training and helping other people, what's your approach on that? Because at some point, it's either a script or it's like, are you well scripted? Would you say that, or are you more?
I personally am not well scripted. I think that
Just have an honest conversation.
I think that I'm really vulnerable.
Yeah.
So like I'm vulnerable. I am authentic. You know, I can just humbly say that like I haven't figured it all out. I'm still trying to figure it out. If everyone can give me a little bit of grace, I said it this morning. You know, Prince was at our we had a mentor meeting, and I just said if you guys can give me a little bit of grace, like I'm trying to figure out this space, I'm trying to figure out that space. I'll need a little bit of leash to figure it out. And I think that that's just so fair and so real. And so for me, I just continue with that mentality of like, and I think we're all trying to figure it out. Like you look at the greatest realtor in the world or the biggest realtor in Canada, or I don't think that that person has it figured out. I think that it's constantly changing, it's constantly moving. We're in a massive economic downturn right now.
Totally.
So like, what a time to try to figure out the shift. I like it. I like figuring out what to do next. I don't love spending money without a return, or losing market share or margin. But I do love the space of trying to feel it out.
Totally.
Yeah.
I think it's just no matter what, anybody who at some level of success will just continue to put their head down, grunt, and figure it out. Oh, that was my wife there.
That's okay. You want to do a cameo? Come do
Oh,
a cameo. Come do a cameo.
Can I do a bit?
Uh-oh.
Yeah, you can do a bit.
Are you sure you want to allow this?
Yeah. What's a bit?
Well, I just
It's
I've got
my wife loves to laugh. She's she's
cool.
always
Yeah, like a sketch.
telling
Yeah.
jokes.
Let's film the bit. Great.
Usually when she's here, she's interjecting, and it's like super light. It's
Cool.
actually pretty fun.
Okay, cool.
Okay, are we ready?
Well, yeah, I was gonna say, Prince, you got to get this beautiful dog here. Yeah, we're ready for you.
Okay.
We're doing an eating challenge.
Hey guys. Here, move over. Let me sit in between.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
This is not scripted, by the way.
So, I've had to sit inside for here, please.
Oh, thank you. Thank you,
I've
dear.
had to sit inside for what feels like a century, listening to your extremely informative and yet incredibly boring conversation. So I had no choice but to make you avocado toast.
All
I
right.
noticed
And-
when you closed the door that maybe you weren't as into this one.
No, I wasn't.
It's so fair.
Yeah. So I just have like 3 really important questions for you.
Yes.
You don't have to eat it, but I just didn't know. It's also sort of my lunch, so don't eat it.
Okay.
Okay. Question 1.
Okay.
What makes you laugh? John.
My wife.
Obviously. Scott.
My kids.
Yeah. Oh, that's cute. Okay. Question 2. How do you relax?
That's a good question.
Oh, neither of you know the answer.
I know the answer. I know
What
the
is
answer.
it?
Long walks. I go for long walks.
Long walk.
Exercise does help
Okay.
with relaxation,
all right. Okay.
yep, I know it's supposed to be short.
Final question. Who's your celebrity crush?
Oh, Meg Ryan.
Oh,
Yeah.
you're going old school on that.
Yeah.
I know yours.
Do I have to narrow it down, or can
No, I know 2 of yours.
believe it or not, it's Katy Perry.
Yeah. And
Which
who
is-
else from old school times? No.
Shania Twain. I can't help it.
She's
Hugest
Canadian.
crush
She's Canadian. Oh, I know
on
somebody
her
that
when
wants
I
to
was
say
a
one.
kid.
Look, Penny's jealous. You're not anyone's crush.
Did I get a happy face, or is that just?
I don't know. I was
okay.
just trying to be chefy.
Gotcha.
But anyways, that was my bit.
Thank you for breaking up the boredom.
Yeah.
And sorry for boring you.
I wanted to kill myself.
Yes.
So.
You
bring me another
Do you,
drink there, babe?
yeah. Do you actually want to eat this?
No, I'm okay. I had
Do you want to eat
I'll eat it, but not now.
it?
yeah,
Okay.
because
Yeah.
it's kind of hard to talk when there's.
Okay.
But,
that was just my little shtick.
Here,
No,
just
you know
put it
what
in here,
though?
babe.
That's just proof that like
Oh, I think something fell off me.
every man needs a great woman. So thank you for interjecting.
I feel like a woman right now.
Is that? Hold on one second here. What part is this? Is this the actual microphone? I wasn't paying attention to that part.
But that's my wife. No, I love that. You know why? Because she's actually looking from an outside, going, like, let's lighten the mood. Let's make this more fun.
100%.
So I love that.
So what I discovered with COVID, what happened was we were only allowed to see a certain amount of people, and my wife's the social butterfly, right? So she's always bringing people over, and they're awesome. They're great.
Yeah.
But there's something about like being a business owner that without that like conversation with someone else who's trying to achieve something, like I was getting, like, I need some more of this. I need some more
Yeah,
people in
yeah.
my life. So this is like my opportunity
Yeah, I
to
love
feed
it.
into that. And of course, my wife can't help it. She'll come out and always make it light.
Yeah, and
She
you know
helps
what?
me
I think
relax.
that for us, like, you know, we've got two amazing wives. I'm so thankful for, you know, for my wife, and I can tend to be business all the time, and like
Same.
probably that's what Jamie was seeing was like, this is way too
100%.
businessy. Like, let's make
Yeah,
this a little bit
that's
more
it.
fun.
That's why we have the
Yeah, this is
cornhole.
good. I'm
That's
excited
gonna
for
be
this
great.
match. But yeah, for me, I think that, you know, I appreciate the invite because, you know, we met at church the other day and you were saying, I'm actually an introvert. And I was like, really? You're introverted? Like,
Oh,
you're
huge introvert, yeah.
Yeah, that's so shocking to me because you're so comfortable talking with people. And maybe that's like a one-on-one thing that I get from you. But like the vibe I gather is like, you're so comfortable. And yeah, just to hear you be a little bit more vulnerable and say like, no, actually, like, it's not my favorite
Totally.
sort of, you know, thing to be in a big crowd and whatever, was like, wow, that's so interesting. So
Yeah. And you're the big extrovert.
you know what, I wouldn't say I'm a big extrovert, but
Jamie and I were trying to figure this out.
yeah, I don't think I'm a big extrovert, but I wouldn't say that I'm an introvert.
Gotcha.
So
I'm the same. I'm halfway.
yeah, so
No.
yeah, I think, like, are you someone that gets up on stage or no?
No.
Okay,
No.
but
she's
like
the
you're
life of the
comfortable.
party.
You're comfortable in a room full of people,
When I don't have to be, when it's on my own terms,
right?
when it's impromptu, when I feel like it.
Yeah, and so for me, I would say that, yeah, I think that I'm similar in that nature. I don't love being up on a big stage. I'll do it, and but yeah, for
I've
me,
seen you a few times. Yeah, you always were clear to the point. I think there was a ton of value there. I was going to get a drink. Can you?
Oh, I'm so
Sorry,
sorry.
yeah, no,
I'm
all good.
So sorry. I
No,
haven't
good.
done everything for you all day.
we should probably be getting it for her, especially on camera, so it looks like we actually
Yeah, totally.
serve
yeah.
our homes.
100%.
Like, sitting here being served is not probably the
I
greatest
know.
look.
Yeah, maybe
Yeah.
cut that part out. I didn't want to change my spot. Then the people know I moved.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
No,
that's
I'm just
right.
kidding.
So-
Yeah, no, I've heard you speak a few times. I think the best one for me was watching. It was at a Christian Summit, I think is what it was called.
Yep.
And I saw you, Mark Ferris,
Yep.
and Christopher Invidiata, and then obviously Matt Regan.
Yes.
And that was awesome. And you know what? That's part of why I think that there's so much in real estate. We can get going into all the crazy details. I love this stuff. I love hearing about what someone's done to achieve at such a high level.
Yep.
But part of what I think people want to see is like what makes someone tick, what makes them push past the noise. And I briefly
Yeah.
touched on that before, but at some point we're left with a decision. And of the 4 agents that I talked to, there was a turning point in everybody's life where they're like, I've got a choice. You know what I mean? And the choice could have gone this way or could have gone that way. And they were like, I was scared out of my mind. One of them was 18 and had his girlfriend pregnant. He didn't even know her that well. He's
Yep.
like, I had a choice. He's 26 and he's selling a ton of homes, doing super well. But he's like, that was a defining moment in my life where I knew I had to step up and essentially be a man.
Yep.
The other ones all had stories too. I have my same story.
Let's hear it.
Well-
I haven't heard it.
So for me, let's see here. I was 19. I would say school wasn't really great with me. I didn't do well in school. I needed
No.
something like this. Whenever somebody says they're not good at school, I'm like, well, this kid's
Did you
waiting
know
to get
him
in
in school?
sales.
No.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah, I knew her, but she didn't know me. She,
Okay.
No,
But
no,
same
that was
school or
after
different school?
Oh, I lived in Calgary,
Oh, right. Gotcha.
so I didn't look in until I was like 19.
Okay.
So I did horrible in school, and I didn't know where I was going to go. So I thought, let's go to Briarcrest. Let's check that out. See, let's just do a year long. That year was about 2 months because I got myself into so much trouble and got kicked out of school. And I remember one of the lessons. So there's a couple of defining moments. One of the lessons was I didn't have any money because I'd paid for school. My parents were like, I'm not paying for you. So I had this prized guitar, a BB King Lucille that I'd saved up for so long. And they made me sell it to pay my own way home. I was like,
Oh, wow.
this hurts. This super hurts. Did I learn my lesson? No. A couple years later, this was the defining moment. So I was into drugs and alcohol, and there's a party life. We all probably had some sort of that.
Yeah.
But I remember my personality was super addictive to anything. And there was this one moment where my buddies, there was cocaine on the table. And up until that point, I'd never really tried anything super hard. But I knew if I was going to touch that, I knew my life was going to head that way. And so I just like, guys, I got to go. And that was not me, right? I was always up for the fun and the party. I was like, I got to get out of here. Something's telling me I got to leave. So I left. Turns out 2 of those friends ended up in jail. And the others, I don't know if they ever really figured out their life.
Wow.
And like, these are some of my best buddies.
Wow.
And like, I didn't have friends. And I was like, I've got to do something with myself.
Yeah.
And that's when I started to learn. At that point, it was music. I've always had something I want to be into.
Yes.
I decided to play music, and I literally worked my face off on. I was like, I got to make something of my life. And even though music didn't work out, because I think I made $30 total in 9 years of playing music, it was not very profitable.
But just so you know, because you are being humble, like we know some musicians in the area, and they all have said that you're just this like lethal guitar player, unbelievable, best they've
They're
ever
just super
seen.
nice. Yeah,
No,
they won't
but,
say anything bad.
You know, you're being pretty humble. So anyways, go on.
What I discovered about music is that you can have all the work ethic in the world, but if you don't have the talent factor, it's just going to be a struggle.
Right.
So that was a lesson learned, though. So when I hit 30, my last gig was playing for something called Heaven's Rehearsal. And it was this Christian gig where there was 30,000 people there just coming together to celebrate and sing
like the
worship
ACC,
music.
right?
At the ACC, yeah. And that was like a childhood dream. I did a sound check and I played guitar and it just like filled the whole stadium.
Wow.
And there was times when it was just me playing and 30,000 people singing. I was like, you know what? I'm done. I'm good. It's time to find something else.
Wow.
Arrived.
Well, that wasn't arriving. Let me tell you
No,
that. But that was
still, that's
amazing.
Like a defining moment.
And that's
That's
when
amazing.
I decided to get my real estate license. And then ever since then, it's like those two moments of like, you've got a choice. And you can, you know what I mean? You can either go this way or that way. There's other factors at play, which we'll talk about down the road. But we have a choice to either figure it out or take kind of the easy road. And,
Yep.
and I think that was my saving moment in my life.
Wow. That's
What's-
amazing.
what's
I can't
your-
believe that I've known John this long,
And didn't know that.
and I didn't know his story because
Yeah.
actually there's
Remember,
a
I'm
lot
an
of,
introvert. People have to ask me these things.
yeah, and maybe I talk too much and don't ask enough
No,
questions.
I love
No,
this.
because like
What's your
I
moment?
love that. I would say that I've got a lot of those moments. I don't know that one defining moment for me was a homeless person. I was living in Toronto. I was living above a art store on Yonge Street, and fairly dejected in life. I had mentioned earlier in this talk that I was delivering newspapers, and again, I like to qualify by saying nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But like, I was an adult and I was delivering the Toronto Star, and this homeless person said, "Hey, you know, can you spare some change?" And I felt something internally just say, "Give him what you have." And I think I had $2 in my pocket, and like I was probably running the line on like that's all I had.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking at the time, like, it was really this internal feeling of like, okay, I'll give it. Later in my life, I know for sure that was God's voice just
Yeah.
saying, you know, I think that you need to think of others.
Yeah.
And so I gave him the money and sort of started me on this trajectory in a totally different direction. And yeah, for me, you know, it's interesting, but like there was a homeless community in Toronto that kind of pointed me in a direction from in a couple of weird stories. So like I met a homeless, no, I didn't meet him. He was a belligerent homeless guy on the street, yelling at everybody, yelling at the sky, you know, take me to this address, and he's swearing and I was taking offense as like a local, you know, person in the neighborhood, like, hey man, just, you got to chill out. Like, I'll take you to the address, but like, stop screaming at everybody. And that address just happened to be a church. And I wasn't
Awesome.
raised, yeah, it was an amazing story. And when I got there, I remember saying like, you know, this gentleman's trying to get in here, and she said, okay, well, come on in, boys. And I said, well, no, I don't need to come in. It was actually it was called Out of the Cold, and it was a program being run in the churches where they would serve the homeless, and the homeless people would sleep there overnight. And so maybe in my pride, I said, no, I don't need anywhere to live. I've got a place to live, food in the fridge. And she said, well, why don't you help us serve? And that was probably one of the defining moments of my life. So I like to say, like, she tricked me, you know, like she tricked
Yeah.
me into getting into
You
that.
got duped.
She
I
sold
got
you.
duped.
You
And
got duped into being a kind person.
yeah, and after I got in there, I realized that like, wow, like for me, a lot of joy came from like serving others. And so, you know, in life, I think that we use a lot of our skill sets to benefit ourselves.
Yep.
And I think it's a constant battle. But for me, I want to rate now my big why, you know, shout out to Keller Williams, because I think that's a great term. But the big why is my children, my marriage. You know, I didn't come from a home where there was, I would say, well, I come from a broken home. So, you know, there's just brokenness. And I've got 4 little kids. I've got an amazing wife. And my big why, yeah, she's pretty awesome. And so puts up with me, right? So just you putting up with John makes you pretty awesome.
I
Like
agree.
just that in
Oh,
itself.
she's
You're
so
on
awesome
team
for
wife
what she
awesome.
puts up
Yeah,
with.
yeah. So, but that'd be the reason for me that, you know, I think that, and again, it's funny. There's a lot of good things that have come out of Keller Williams. Good verbiage. Gary Keller said, "Money's only good for the good it can do."
Yeah.
And I remember hearing that at a conference one year and thinking like, that is so brilliant. Money's not a bad thing. I think that the love of money is a bad thing, but money's good for the good it can do. And so for us, the income that real estate has provided has given me more time with my family, actually. Not less time, it's given me more time. Really great trips. We've got a beautiful property that they can, run around and be kids and run in the forest. And so that's things I'm all super grateful for.
Yep.
And I would say that connecting with humble guys like yourself, we're in an industry of self-promotion. We're putting our name or our face, or we're top this or top that. To have an environment where you're surrounding yourself with people that are down to earth, they're grounded, I think it is so important.
100%. And that's kind of what I wanted to get at. I love hearing people's story and what makes them tick, because I know there is one. There's something that pushes forward. And to hear you say that family is super important to you too, is what makes us tick. And like, there was a time, 8 years, where I was gone all the time. I was just working. And I could have been smarter in my business. If you asked me what I would do differently, I would have like a whole list. But I wouldn't change that for anything, because it's brought perspective. And part of like, for me, getting to that place where I needed to push through, because you just kind of have to. You have to be reinventing yourself in this business. And to do that, sometimes you don't want to, because you recognize you want to be with your family. But for me, it was not a turning point, but my big why is the ability to be generous, because I grew up with, my parents are awesome. I have a great relationship with both of them. We see them every week. We love having family dinner.
Bought our piano from your dad.
There you go.
Actually, no.
No, you didn't buy one.
No, but we
You
didn't
told
buy
me
the
that.
piano, but
You asked him to buy it back after you bought it somewhere
No,
else.
no, that's. Hey, I'd like to tell the other side of that story. I went to see him to buy a piano.
Yeah.
Told him about a piano I found outside of his store.
Yeah, Young Chan.
And
He
he
didn't like
told
him.
me, "You should buy that. That's a great deal." Then I actually hired him in his moving side of his company.
Right.
So he still got paid. I still worked with him. Anyways,
he's all good. He just likes
I'm
to
just
joke.
teasing. Yeah, he's a good guy.
But you can imagine the piano industry, and there was some instability, not from the sense that I knew my parents didn't love me. They were awesome. They were always there for me. But the piano business went like this. And there was a few times where we almost lost our house. And it was, you always trust that everything's going to work out. My dad has an amazing faith. And he said, if money's not a tool, it will rule. But also, you got to trust in God in the downtimes. And I was like, that's an amazing way to live. But it rocked me to the core, because like it kind of built up an insecurity in myself, where everybody else was all to do these crazy things. Now I work like a dog, and I've got so many stories about the things I did as a kid just to work and grow. And he taught me how to work hard. But that instability created an insecurity that I thought I had to push to prove myself. And you kind of need to prove yourself at some point in the business. And that's a whole different topic about people entering. But for me, it was like, just get out of my way. I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to do it. No one's going to stop me, because I thought I had to prove myself. And then what brings it around, what I'm getting at, is that eventually like that gets old too, like trying to prove yourself, because you recognize like the bigger picture isn't about proving yourself. The bigger picture is what? And for me, it's if you have a little bit of extra, if you can continue to push and grow, mentor, help other people reach their potential, but also having the ability to help financially. I think that's just, my parents they did what they could when they could. So there's not a hit on them at all, but to be able to give truly and it doesn't impact your life, it to me is a huge motivating factor. That's why I get up. Sometimes can't sleep past 4 a.m, because I'm like, what am I going to do? How am I going to figure this out?
Yeah.
That's what makes me tick.
I love that, man. No, that's awesome. I think that for me, and it's funny, but in our industry, you'll see a lot of realtors have humble beginnings. And this is not a knock around realtors that, had parents in the business and were kind of groomed into the business. Yeah. They have their own struggles in themselves to try and maybe match up to what, their parents' success and stuff like that. But I look at the house that my mom still lives in, that I was raised in, and it was in an area of Mississauga around South Common Mall, which we called South Compton Mall. Mm-hmm. And across from this, for those of you that know Mississauga, is across from Midwich. It was, I was always raised, my mom would tell me like, we're middle class, Scott, we're middle class. And I look back and I'm like, we weren't middle class. We weren't middle class at all. I was always provided for. I thank my mom for all of the effort she put into raising me in that. But I look back and I go, I didn't. It's funny you say this about your childhood and how it shapes us. I didn't really think about it until you said it. But I always went to this school that was local to where I lived. But in high school, I was bused for a French program into a community called Lorne Park. And I lived in Erin Mills, and I would say in a lower average resale home area of Erin
Right.
Mills, and I was getting bussed into Lauren Park, which for those of you that know, Lauren Park is right by the water, and it was a beautiful area. And I remember
Different
my buddies in high school where they would go for lunch and they would sign chits, and I was like, what is this world of signing? You sign a blank piece of paper and you don't have to pay anything, at the country club or what have you.
yeah.
And I remember thinking like, wow, that is the way to
do they do
live.
that?
Like
Yeah.
this is the way to live. And so a bit of me started out on that trajectory, and I think now as we mature, we've realized that like actually, it's never going to be money that's going to bring you joy or happiness. You better find something more important than that, and that's where I'm at now. So.
Yeah.
I've gone after everything that the world said would make me content and make me happy. Now I'm at a place where I realize that, we're not taking any of this stuff with us.
No, of course.
So we better sort of, and me, it's more relationships. And that, for me, it's a personal thing, but be my relationship with Jesus,
Yeah.
my relationship with my wife, my relationship with my kids. This is what drives me now. And if all of it goes away, all the money and stuff goes away tomorrow, and I still hang on to those relationships, like that's enough for me. In fact, it's everything.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm at now, my stage of life.
I love it, man.
Yeah.
It feels like your 20s are discovery, your 30s you work your tail off, and 40s bring perspective. And hopefully you have the people in your life that will challenge you so that you can really dig into what's important.
Totally. And keep these guys close and ladies close, right? Because
100%.
I think that, the world is wanting to tell us what we want to hear, tickle our ears, and we have to, stand on. I heard a great sermon the other day, and he said, you have to take what you feel and stick it underneath what you know. So like, take what you feel, but also align it with the truth.
Yeah.
And sometimes if I go with like what I'm feeling one day or my emotions, like I can go off in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
I love that your dog is licking Prince's. This is amazing. Can I turn your camera around? I gotta show this.
Penny, get
Okay,
down.
so
Penny,
we gotta
get
show
down.
that. Oh, we missed
Penny.
Penny licking.
Not accosted by the doggy.
That would have been the best.
That would have been awesome.
Just
Get
such
Prince
a
some camera time.
yeah, just such a real moment of our amazing content creator Prince getting licked by the dog.
And still managing the camera. Like
Yeah,
that's
that
impressive.
was. We're not cutting any of that out, Prince.
Yeah.
And you're not allowed to wash your face.
Ow,
Like you can't wash your face for at least a couple of hours. But
Oh, man,
yeah,
so
I'm glad
good.
we got to the heart of what makes us tick.
Yeah.
Because for me, like the industry is itself.
Penny.
I can't even believe I'm going to say this on camera, but like I don't love dogs, but I love this.
Are you
dog.
allergic?
No,
dog?
no. This dog's great. I'm just teasing. For all you dog lovers, I take it back.
Yeah.
I actually was. My dad was a dog breeder growing up.
We love dogs over here. So
Yeah, yeah.
we're considering.
The Van Geest group. The Van Geest group will sell your house and love dogs. No, I'm just kidding. I don't.
Come on,
and
Penny.
Actually, our team members love dogs. No, we're good. Come on up, Penny. The only reason I was joking is my dad was a dog breeder growing up.
Oh, no way.
So I don't know if it's 11 or 12 litters. So I just, there
Got-
was a lot of dogs.
There was a
in
lot
my-
of dogs.
in my upbringing. But
I
yeah.
don't even like this one.
Oh, I do love dogs, even though she's nipping at me.
I bought this
No,
and
she'll
surprised
bite.
her.
That's her game. She likes
Yeah,
to
she
bite.
bites. That's
Yeah.
a good game.
But she doesn't ever
Don't
bite.
come to the Van Geest house. The dog bites.
The dog.
The dog-
Yeah, she's a biter.
She'll lick you to death. So what were we saying?
I don't know. We just got real, and I'm glad
Yeah.
we did. Like for me,
I feel.
I think that we can go over and
Yeah.
give you a butt kicking
I
and
feel like there's been enough real.
Yeah.
We've been.
I think now we need to bring it to the whole purpose that we're here, is that I wanted to challenge you
Okay.
to a game
All right.
of cornhole, because I've been doing this and I was undefeated until a certain individual that I will not say.
Jeff Ham.
Thank you. Kicked my butt.
Shout out to Jeff Ham. Kicked
But
your butt, actually?
Oh yeah, he kicked my butt. He was
Wow.
not only, it was 3 games and he beat me 3 games in a row. He was
Wow.
throwing swishes. There's no way I could compete.
Wow.
And it really stung. I think his
Did
kindness
you practice today
threw me
already?
off. No, I didn't. I wanted it to be fresh.
When's the last time you practiced?
2 weeks ago.
Okay. I have never played in a cornhole game before that I can, like, I've thrown a beanbag through one of those holes once in my life, but I've definitely never been in an official game.
God,
Right.
I was
So,
rooting for you.
No, I think I'm still going to win. I mean, I still am confident that I'm going
you
to make
just
this
didn't
close.
make me feel confident.
Yeah, we'll see. Let's
Yeah.
go.
Okay, I got a few surprises. One you'll see on the board.
Okay.
And the other one is the winner of this game gets exclusive rights to the billboard on Highway 6 in QEW that you may already own.
Yeah, no, that's a
I can't-
lose-lose. That's
No,
a lose-lose.
Come on.
Well, Well, if I
I've
already had
never thought,
exclusive
Scott.
rights to it, how would I win in this? I'm
Well,
not giving
you
up
just gotta
exclusive
win now,
rights.
though. You gotta win.
Okay, if I
then
lose,
Okay.
you can have the billboard,
Yeah.
and I get this modern home at the appraised value.
That doesn't sound fair. Does
That's fair, at the
What?
appraised value.
Absolutely not.
I get to pick the appraiser.
This is
I get to
my
pick
house.
the
You
I
appraiser.
see where you went
Something
with
away from
that, and I
me.
recognize that my little bet probably was favored more to me than anything.
Yeah, totally. There's no
You
win for
win,
me.
You can have John's
I want that billboard. Nope, you can't have it.
Okay.
Let's see who wins though.
Okay, let's do it.
All right. I did bring a plaid shirt, so I'm gonna throw that on.
Yeah.